My name is Casey James, and this is the case study for EDL 853. In this case study, we see Miguel. Miguel was paralyzed from the waist down in a high school football game. When he returns to school, he finds that his class schedule has been changed by the counselor to accommodate the need for his wheelchair. The issue is his new class does not meet the college requirements that he needs for a science class. Now, in preparation for a meeting with the principal, Miguel and his parents have hired an attorney and are citing legal violations. The legal and ethical violations that we see, or issues that we see, are that Miguel has been harmed by the school's decision to change his schedule because the science class no longer qualifies as a college requirement. This action has violated Miguel's rights for the Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and also Miguel's FAPE, Free Appropriate Public Education. Miguel also qualifies for Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act because he has a physical impairment that substantially limits major life activities. Because he has this, the school is required to give him certain rights and to help him be a successful student in this school. He does not, however, qualify for IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act that we learned earlier on in this course, because he does not have one of those 13 diagnosed categories. He does qualify for American Disabilities Act, just like he would with the Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, because he has a substantial physical impairment that substantially limits major life activities. And we'll talk a little bit more about ADA later on. So what is happening? A lack of communication between the school and parents has resulted in what I believe is an avoidable violation of student rights. The people involved in this situation are Miguel Hernandez and his parents, the principal, the counselor, Miss Guzman, the lawyer. The place is at Nottingham High School, and the program includes Miguel's sophomore biology class, which has been switched to one that would fulfill his graduation requirement but would not meet a college requirement. Will this situation affect stakeholders? In the long run, this could affect future students or staff at Nottingham High School for these reasons. The school might make improvements to the biology classroom or other classrooms that are American Disability Act compliant, meaning they might have larger doorways, they might have lower tables that can accommodate a wheelchair. They might have different door handles that would allow for students with disabilities to be able to open the doors easier. The school also might update their policy about communicating with parents regarding a Section 504 plan and also FAPE, which sounds like it might not have happened in the case with Miguel. Some options that the school has are option 1, take no action. They don't change Miguel's schedule at all. Probably due to financial constraints, the school cannot make biology room modifications to accommodate Miguel's wheelchair. The second option would be to meet in the middle. Help Miguel find a class that will meet his college requirement, maybe a different section of biology in a different classroom that might be more accommodating, or an online class. Or option 3 would be the most comprehensive action, and this is to update the biology room to make it ADA accessible. The pros and cons of all of these options. Option 1, the upside is that the school doesn't have to pay any money to make the updates. The bad thing is that the school will definitely lose a legal battle. Probably, I shouldn't say definitely. They will probably lose a legal battle, and Miguel realizes that the school isn't really fighting for him. Option 2 is that for meeting in the middle, the pro is that Miguel is still able to get his requirements through another class. The downside is that the classroom is still not accessible for him or students in the future. And option 3, the most comprehensive action, is that Miguel can return to his biology class and it is accessible for students in the future. However, the financial impact of the construction to update the biology room would be substantial, and it is also unlikely that the construction would be completed within the school year, so Miguel might not even be able to use it anyway. In my opinion, the best option is option 2, to meet in the middle. This is the immediate plan to help Miguel. The district would make plans in the future to make the biology lab and other classrooms ADA accessible. Now, if Miguel cannot take another class at Nottingham High School, there are numerous options online that he could take to fulfill his biology course that would be compatible for a college requirement. And this is where the counselor would have to do some work to make sure that Miguel's college prospects would allow online classes to be counted as a requirement. To implement the decision, the first thing, and this should have been happening all along, would be to include the superintendent in the decision. Especially when there's anything legal happening, the superintendent must be in the know. Step 2, meet with Miguel and his parents and lawyer. Discuss the options for his science class. Talk about how we could be online. It might be a different section. Step 3, develop a 504 plan for Miguel. The 504 plan would provide services and changes to Miguel's learning environment to enable him to learn alongside his peers. Now, we don't want to take Miguel out of his biology class, but if the biology room cannot physically allow him to come into the room, there's really not much else we can do without taking the extreme measure of updating the room. Money and time might not allow us to do that right now. So we're going to develop that 504 plan to make sure that we can get him what he needs right now. And we'll work in the future to make sure we can help him and other students. Some outcomes could be that the Hernandezes might proceed with their lawsuit claiming too little too late. They were wronged in the first place and they're pretty upset about it. And I can kind of understand that. The counselor should have consulted with them and they should have talked about Miguel's class schedule. The superintendent, the school attorney, the counselor, school administration, the parents, and special education staff, Miguel's parents that is, they all need to be in the know of all the situations of all the steps that are happening along in this situation. And who should help? The principal should definitely not be doing this alone, especially when we're developing the Section 504 plan. The team members for a 504 plan should include the parents or the child's parents or caregivers, the general and special education teachers, and the school principal. So in this case, I would include the biology teacher or other science teachers, as well as the special education teachers, to make sure that he is getting the education and the science education specifically that he needs to make sure that he can get into college. And it will be a difficult conversation, but the principal needs to meet with Ms. Guzman, to make sure that she understands that the school violated Miguel's rights. It'll be a difficult conversation, but it's one that must happen because the school violated Miguel's FAPE and it violated the Section 504. And so we need to make sure that this doesn't happen again in the future. So we need to talk about what we are going to do in the future. We need to talk about the communication that needs to happen in the future and make sure that anytime we have a student that has needs, that we are always communicating and we have protocol for what we're going to do, and we need to develop a 504 plan. So what is our plan B? Taking no action is not an option. We have to do something. We can't just turn a kid away and tell him that he can't take a biology class. If Miguel's family is not satisfied with meeting in the middle, the principal will have to work with the superintendent to create a budget to update the biology lab immediately. Now that's a lot easier said than done. This might have to apply for some grants. We have to, then this is going to take time. You can't just do construction in the middle of a school year. But it's something that needs to be done, and that's what is right ethically. It is what is right for the students, and it is what is right for Miguel. And these are my references, and thank you for your time.